motivations behind the merge. The main purpose of the merge is to transition Ethereum from its current proof-of-work consensus mechanism to the proof-of-stake model. In short, in the proof-of-work or POW model, the network is secured by miners who have to purchase and run the mining hardware. In this model, the miners consume electricity in exchange for block issuance and a portion of transaction fees. In the proof-of-stake or POS model, the network is secured by validators who have to stake ETH in order to validate the network. In this model, the validators don't consume much electricity. The transition to POS aims at making Ethereum more energy efficient, more secure, and lays the groundwork for enabling more scalability with sharding later on. The move to POS was one of the big milestones in the original Ethereum roadmap, and research began before the Ethereum network launched. Instead of transitioning Ethereum to POS in one huge and potentially dangerous change, the Ethereum researchers and developers decided to split it into two steps. The first step, launching the Beacon chain, was successfully executed in December 2020. This allowed for creating a separate parallel POS chain that could be tested in production for a period of time without having any direct impact on the already existing POW network that secures hundreds of billions of dollars of economic activity. Another important reason for launching the Beacon chain earlier was to give enough time to stakers so the amount of staked ETH can be sufficiently large to secure the network at the time of the merge. When making this video, the Beacon chain had over 400,000 validators and over 13 million ETH actively staking. The merge is the second step in the transition to POS, which merges the consensus layer of the Beacon chain with the EVM state of the Ethereum POW chain. More on this later in the video. The transition to POS aims at reducing the power consumption to secure Ethereum by around 99.95%. This in turn brings down a lot of arguments about Ethereum, DeFi and NFTs killing the planet. As a byproduct, it also makes Ethereum ESG compliant, which can be good for more regulatory-driven institutions that may want to start exploring the Ethereum ecosystem. This can also make Ethereum more friendly to gamers and NFT artists concerned about the environmental impact of crypto. Another motivation for completing the merge is the reduction in the ETH issuance, as the security of the POW and POS chains is funded by ETH issuance. After the merge, the POW network will cease to exist, which will dramatically reduce ETH issuance. This was named triple halvings, as the issuance drop is similar to 3 Bitcoin issuance halvings. On top of all of this, another argument for the merge and the transition to POS is that Ethereum enthusiasts will be able to secure Ethereum from home. Being a consensus participant will no longer mainly be for institutions and sophisticated miners. This should further decentralize the network and make it even more resistant to attacks. Now that we know the motivations behind the merge, time to dive a bit deeper into the mechanics of this upgrade. Let's start with a quick analogy. Imagine Ethereum as a car driving on the motorway. The merge aims at transitioning the car's engine from gas to electric. A key difficulty is to do so without stopping the car. To achieve this, the Ethereum developers built a separate electric engine and have tested it with real stake for over 1.5 years. This new electric engine runs in parallel to the existing gas engine. At the time of the merge, the car will switch to using the electric engine and will stop using its current gas-fueled motor. Doing it in this way, first of all, allows for testing the electric engine in parallel. The second benefit is that we can swap the engines without stopping the car. In the case of Ethereum, stopping the car would mean halting the block production, which would result in no new transactions being appended to the blockchain. As you can imagine, this would be very disruptive, especially for DeFi, so Ethereum developers try to avoid it at all costs. I hope this analogy helps visualizing the merge. Here's a bit more technical explanation of this upgrade. The merge is responsible for merging the user state of the Ethereum network with the POS Beacon chain. At the moment, before the transition to POS, in order to validate the Ethereum network, the node operators run one of the existing client implementations, such as Geth, Aragon, or Nethermind. These client implementations bundle the execution layer, EVM, and the consensus layer, POW. In order to transition the Ethereum network to the POS model smoothly, the execution and consensus layers are unbundled. This means that both of these layers can be run separately. They can also be developed by completely different teams specializing in one of the layers. After the merge, a full node will consist of an execution node and a consensus node. There's also an engine API responsible for the communication between the execution and consensus nodes. Decoupling the consensus and execution layers allowed for quicker initial launch of the beacon chain without having to worry about the execution layer. When it comes to consensus layers, the most popular implementations at the moment are Prism, Lighthouse, and Teku. The existing client implementations will transition to being execution layer clients and will work with the consensus layer clients to form a full Ethereum node. With multiple client implementations on both layers, there are multiple different combinations of execution and consensus clients. For example, one validator may prefer to run Prism with Geth, another may prefer to run Lighthouse with Nethermind. With 4 popular execution clients and 5 consensus clients, there are 20 pairwise combinations. At the time of the merge, execution clients like Geth will start listening to blocks coming from the POS chain. The trigger for this switch will be determined by a new variable called terminal total difficulty, which represents the sum of the proof-of-work difficulties of every block accumulated on the Ethereum POW network. When the chain accumulates enough proof-of-work to exceed the terminal total difficulty, nodes switch to following the canonical POS chain. It's interesting to notice that for the first time an Ethereum upgrade will be triggered using total difficulty instead of the usual block height. This is to avoid an attacker mining low-difficulty malicious forks that would satisfy the block height requirement at the time of the merge and cause confusion on the final POW block. After the merge, all applications running on Ethereum should run exactly as pre-merge, with the state and transaction history maintained. This means that, for example, if we were a liquidity provider on Uniswap before the merge, after the merge the state will be the same, hence we will still be providing liquidity on Uniswap. If we had an open loan on Aave, this loan will still be in place. End users shouldn't notice any changes. The transition has been going through multiple intensive rounds of testing that include merging shadow forks and merging testnets. Shadow forks are copies of an existing Ethereum network. Merging them helps catch potential issues related to the current state of the network. These forks are usually abandoned after testing, and the purpose is to expose any potential problems. Unlike most shadow forks, merged testnets usually persist as POS networks. This helps developers with testing their applications on a chain that resembles Ethereum post-merge. After Robstent and Sepolia, the last and most used long-lived testnet to merge is Girly. After this is successfully executed, we can expect the announcement of the mainnet merge. Now let's discuss one of the interesting topics which was, to a certain extent, responsible for postponing the merge, which is client diversity. Ethereum, in contrast to a lot of other platforms, doesn't rely on a single client implementation. In fact, there are currently 4 mainstream implementations: Geth, Nethermind, Aragon, and Besu. Having multiple implementations allows for quickly switching to a different working client in case a bug is found in the software you are running. This makes Ethereum more resilient to attacks, as even a bug or an intentional exploit introduced by one of the clients would have limited consequences. After the merge, client diversity plays an attacker. The most popular solution to this problem at the moment is a single secret leader election that uses clever cryptography to prevent the attacker from knowing who the next proposer is, while still providing this information to the actual proposer. There are also centralization risks that come with the concentration of stake in pools such as Lido and Coinbase. These can lead to attacks such as censorship or extortion. In the case of Lido, there is also governance takeover risk and smart contract risk. One of the interesting solutions suggested by the Lido community was to allow people who deposit their ETH to Lido and receive STETH to veto any potential dangerous proposals. It's great to see the Ethereum community anticipating a lot of potential risks associated with the merge and the transition to POS, and already finding some potential solutions. These solutions, even if not implemented straight away, can be added to the network in one of the following hard forks, making it more resilient in the future. The Ethereum merge is clearly one of the biggest and most anticipated upgrades in the history of the cryptocurrency space. When it comes to the date of the merge, at the moment, most people predict it to happen around September 2022. This should be possible if there are no major issues found during the Girly testnet merge. Despite a few potential risks, the researchers and developers have been spending countless hours making sure there are no surprises during the mainnet merge. After the merge, Ethereum will become more secure and sustainable. It will also be perfectly positioned for the next big upgrades: the surge, the verge, the purge, and the splurge. We will learn more about this in the following videos, but it's worth mentioning